Welcome to So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast discussing Western Mass news. I'm Payton North.
And I'm Dennis Hackett.
And we'll be your hosts for today's episode. Dennis, welcome back. You were just on vacation. How was it?
I sure was. It was great. I did absolutely nothing. I sat by the pool and just chilled out for a week, so it was good to take a break, get some little refreshment, and get ready to go again.
Yeah, that's the best. And you're not even sunburnt. Look at that.
No, I'm good about sunscreen.
Yeah.
I usually don't get sunburnt unless I'm out there for too long, and then I use like the spray sunscreen, and it's like you just get the splotchy
oh my god,
sunburns all over the place.
One of my friends, I felt so bad. She was putting on sunscreen, and she missed like a whole stripe on her arm. So she had this bright red stripe on her arm, but everywhere else was normal. Just terrible. Yeah, that I like that sunscreen too because it's just easier. I don't know why I'm talking about sunscreen right now, but that sunscreen is best because it's easier, but yeah, you end up missing.
Yeah, no, when I was little, I used to get sunburned all the time. So there was one time in particular where my face and my nose were just messed up. So it was like, sunscreen from now on.
Yeah. I've become like one of the people who hides from the sun. I used to go out in the sun in the summer at the lake and get a tan or just lay in the sun, lay in the water, whatever. Now I don't. I haven't gone in the sun once. I'm like, I can't. I'm too nervous. Skin cancer runs in my family too, so I'm like, I'm going to try and stay away from that. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't already do enough damage. But
this past week, anytime it was like 4-ish o'clock when that sun was like the strongest coming down, because the way the trees are from our pool, it's like from where the sun would be coming down, so it's really strong. There was a few times I just sat there for like 10-15 minutes and got my sun for the day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good. I'm glad you had a nice relaxing time. That's great.
How have things been for you?
Busy. There's a lot going on here. We've got a lot of great stuff happening. My boyfriend adopted a puppy, so we've been doing a lot of puppy stuff, which has been fun. A lot of bathroom breaks. I always forget about how these dogs, puppies need to go to the bathroom every 2 hours. I stayed with him the first night. My boyfriend works nights, so he is on from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll stay with the dog. That's fine. I'll stay with him the first night. Oh, my God. I got no sleep. He came home the next day with breakfast from Donut Dip for me. And he's like, you want to go back to bed? Like, you don't look okay. And I'm like, yeah, no, it was fine. There were no accidents inside, but I was up every hour and a half. He was crying. It was just so sad, but he's a sweet little boy. He's a Belgian Malinois mix. He's adorable, and there were 13 of them, so we got to pick between 3 at the time because some of them weren't ready to be adopted yet, but oh my gosh, he's precious. He's a good little boy.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of him. He's adorable.
Yeah, so. And he'll be 12 weeks on Friday, and his ears are already standing up. It's just the cutest, saddest thing. He's growing so much. His favorite spot to be in lately has been underneath the couch. He'll do a low crawl under the couch, and he's already getting too big to do it. I saw a video from this morning of him trying to do it, and he just is already starting to get a little stuck. He's growing so fast.
It just reminds me of when my dog Riley was very young. She would crawl under my bed, and then she would claw up the box spring.
Oh no.
And she would crawl into it.
Into the box spring? Oh my god. That's a nightmare.
There was one time I was sitting in my chair that's in front of my bed by the TV, and I was like, where is she? And then I looked under, and I see this dog in the box spring, her head just poking out.
Oh, my gosh. My parents have a 115-pound German Shepherd Scout. He's the best. He's going to be 11 this year. He loves to sleep under their bed. And when they're at the lake house, that bed's a lot closer to the ground. And it's always so funny watching him low crawl underneath that bed to lay because there is not nearly enough space for him. Oh my gosh, the poor thing. He's going to get stuck one day. I don't know how he hasn't. And then, of course, he's swimming all day. So when he comes in, he's got that thick coat. He's half dry because, again, thick coat. And then their floor smells like dog, wet dog underneath their bed. So my mom's cleaning it all the time. It's a whole thing. But I don't know. It's so funny that dogs like to be in those close quarters that. It's just strange. But maybe they feel safe or something. So that's all I've really been up to. Work and lots of dogs. All right, let's get into this week's topics. We have Victory Theater renovations are well underway in Holyoke. Nadia Milleron is challenging U.S. Rep. Richard Neal. Dakin reopened its Kitten ICU. Big E marketing director Noreen Tassinari retires after 50 years with the Big E. And Ken Harris of Springfield stages his own one-man play. We'll get into this week's topics after a couple of quick messages.
Small businesses are the heartbeat of our communities, and at the first annual Go Local Marketplace, over 20 local makers will be bringing what they do best to brew practitioners for all to enjoy. From food trucks to live music and more, Go Local Marketplace will be your place to shop small with friends and family in tow. Go Local Marketplace will take place on Saturday, October 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. at Brew Practitioners in East Longmeadow. Parking and admission to the event is free. Bring your friends and family to Go Local Marketplace and enjoy the best of what our small business community has to offer.
Put your products and services before more than 2,500 potential customers in just one day? That's what a booth at the Prime Life Expo can do for your business. If your goal is connecting with consumers age 50 plus, let the Prime Life Expo help you reach this exploding market. To book your space for September 8 between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. in MGM's Aria Ballroom, contact your sales representative or visit primelifeexpo.com.
And we're back. For this week's first topic, we are providing an update on the renovations at Victory Theater in Holyoke after staff writer Trent Lavakis was invited to a tour of the building with renovations in full swing. For those who don't know, the Victory Theater opened over 100 years ago in 1920 when it was one of 8 theaters in Holyoke and was built out of admiration for New York's Broadway scene. The theater has been empty for over 45 years, but MIFA purchased the property in 2009 with plans to renovate it back to its former glory.
While it has taken time to get going, construction bid documents are expected to be finalized by the end of the summer, with the rehabilitation estimated to cost $71 million. In the article, Trent explained that the construction machinery has been positioned inside of the building for several weeks now. While construction is getting underway now, MIFA restored 2 23-foot-tall murals created by Italian immigrant Vincent Maragliotti in 1942, an effort that cost $400,000.
Looking at what's ahead for the renovation, there are several areas of work already underway. This includes the remodeling of the theater seats and a new orchestra pit in the front of the stage. For the seats, the plan is to fill out the theater with 1,600 seats, which MIFA Executive Artistic Director Don Sanders said fits the bill for a typical Broadway theater, which typically has between 1,100 and 2,000 seats. For the orchestra pit, it'll be designed for shows with orchestras, but will also be able to be removed in place of seating for other performances.
Not everything will be replaced in the theater, with many parts receiving a facelift, but maintaining its identity. The building currently has Vermont marble and Brazilian mahogany from when it was built, which will be restored. Trent said that when walking in, the lobby has traditional playhouse look, while the original doors and the design throughout the building remain.
Sanders added that the project is a complete historic restoration. The building will look the way it did back in its heyday. With the restoration, the theater will fill a need in the area that has not been met since it's closed its doors in 1979. Sanders explained that there aren't any Broadway-sized theaters in the area and would be able to bring in that kind of show as well as advanced operas people may not have the opportunity to see in the area. So looking at this, I think this is obviously a big story. It's been underway for 15 years at this point, but it's nice to see that it's really finally starting to get to the construction and moving along phase.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Super exciting. And like we just said, I mean, we don't really have any Broadway scale theaters in the area, so that'll be really exciting. Have you ever been to Broadway or any Broadway theaters?
No, I'm not a...
really cool.
I am not a play person, unfortunately.
I get that, but I feel like there are you could probably find something that you'd like.
I'm sure I could. It's just...
like a more modern one. Like
yeah.
I went to Mean Girls when they were on Broadway, which was also a musical. And I am kind of iffy on musicals. Those really aren't necessarily my thing, but it was just incredible. The showmanship, the quality of work. And even Sarah recently, not Broadway, of course, but she went to, where was it? In West Springfield? Where she went to that play.
I think, was it the Majestic Theater?
It was the Majestic. Yeah, it was the play where everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. But she said that was incredible, and it seemed to be so amazing, and it was just hilarious. I bet you could find something that you would like.
Probably, but it's the same thing with everything. As I don't always want to watch stuff.
That's valid. Yeah, that's valid. I mean, if you already aren't like into it, why would you push yourself to go and do it when you could do
I'm the
something
kind of
else?
person
But
that'll
sure.
like watch like a handful of movies in a given year. Like I don't really have the attention span to sit down for something that's like 2 hours long sometimes.
No, that's fair. Well, I'm excited for them. It's finally underway, and I'm also happy to hear that they're able to restore some of it back to its original glory. I think it's great that the Vermont marble is being maintained and the Brazilian mahogany. That'll be so beautiful and really keeping with the history and the original look. That'll be really nice. So.
And I think this will be a good kind of benefit to the overall theater scene because obviously, like, we have all these different theaters. People are doing like excellent productions in most of our communities, from Ludlow to East Hampton to wherever. Like, there's always some kind of play you could go see around here in a given week. But this just adds a different kind of experience and scale to it that I don't think we really get the opportunity to see.
Yeah, in December, I went to Exit 7 and I saw one of their shows, and it was also incredible. The amount of work and time that these people spend on these plays. Some of them have different roles, like 2 roles in a play, 3 roles in a play, and it was just incredible. The set design was amazing, so I'm a big fan. I'm excited to be able to go here when they open someday, hopefully soon. And to give it a little test run, check it out.
It'll give the actors in the area an opportunity too to do something that they don't normally get to do on a bigger stage like this. So I think it's a benefit to playgoers, actors, everybody.
Absolutely, I agree.
But yeah. Anyways, the work on the theater is slated to be finished by the fall of 2026. And for continued coverage of the restoration, stay tuned to thereminder.com.
So for our next topic, U.S. Rep. Richard Neal is facing a new challenger in Nadia Milleron. Congressman Richard Neal has held his Massachusetts District 1 seat in the U.S. House of Representatives for 36 years. Nadia Milleron launched her bid for the seat in March.
Milleron says she first became politically active after the 2019 death of her daughter while on a faulty Boeing 737 MAX airplane. She testified to Congress that her daughter died due to corruption. She told Reminder Publishing that she was apolitical up until that point and thought politics was a dirty business, but didn't know it could lead to safety issues. After her daughter died, she sought help from legislators. She said Neal was not there for her, and she said she felt like he voted against people's interests.
So in her conversation, she threw a few punches against Neal, mentioning that she said, as the only member of the Mass delegation, he was the only one to vote against the Lower Costs, More Transparency Act, which affected pharmaceutical pricing. She said people in Lee are upset because waste from the Housatonic River is being dumped in their town and Neal hasn't stepped in. And finally, she said he has a long history of opposing pensions. She said, quote, "I think Richard Neal is serving the people who pay his bills."
In contrast to Milleron's stance, Neal has voted for several pieces of legislation that support pensions, such as the Butch-Lewis Emergency Pension Plan Relief Act of 2021. Geez, that's a mouthful. Emergency Pension Plan Relief Act of 2021 and 2022's Secure Act. Milleron said she's raised $60,000 from individual donors, while only $28,000 of Neal's more than $3 million war chest came from individuals. According to OpenSecrets.org, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that explores political fundraising, Neal's top donor in the 2023 to 2024 campaign was Fidelity Investments, donating $21,850. Insurance companies were the most prolific donors of any industry, giving $217,000 in that same period. Despite working with fewer resources, Milleron says she's going to run a successful campaign. She borrowed $57,000 for TV ads. She said if she lost, it would still be a victory because she would serve as a, quote, template for how this congressional office could be run.
So Neal has been in the House of Reps since 1988 and is the ranking Democrat on the House Ways and Means Committee, one of the most powerful committees in Congress. While some argue he should remain in office because his position can help Massachusetts, Milleron said he's not delivered from that seat. She specifically noted he did not repeal Trump-era tax cuts while he was the chair of the committee. She said that longevity in the House is a weakness rather than a strength. She said Neal is not as in touch with constituents as he used to be. She said she believes in term limits and would place a self-imposed limit of 3 terms lasting 6 years.
Milleron is unaffiliated with any party. She said her priorities in the House would be to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. Her call for renewed manufacturing extends to medicine. She said, quote, "We need drugs produced here," citing her concerns over generic pharmaceuticals with adulterated ingredients made in India and China. Continuing on the topic of healthcare, Milleron said there are not enough doctors in this district. She pointed out it can take months to get a doctor's appointment. She wants to offer incentives, including for giving medical school loans to encourage doctors to relocate to the state. She's the niece of political activist Ralph Nader and said she would continue to strengthen Nader's environmental record. She also said she wants to add her voice to Washington's ongoing efforts to combat price gouging, in which the cost of essential items has, quote, tripled.
So let's talk about this. Obviously, it's great when there are contested races to give people choices and to not have shoo-in candidates every term. I think she's putting up a valiant effort. But that said, I think there are a few things that are against her. When I look back at the 2022 election, Neal had a challenger, Dean Martilli. Dean obviously lost. He had 98,386 votes to Neal's 157,635 votes. Martilli, however, had a party affiliation. He was Republican, and he also experienced being a chief of staff to the U.S. Rep. Patrick Kennedy of Rhode Island. He owned his own business, Martilli and Associates, which was a government affairs and business development consulting group. So that experience, that baseline experience, was there. I think many voters are probably going to struggle with Milleron's lack of party affiliation and her lack of experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Obviously, I think having a party backing you is definitely a big benefit to any campaign, because then you obviously have a bigger group trying to get your name out there in addition to what you're doing.
It can be a benefit for sure, especially for older voters, people, maybe 20, 30, 40 years older than us. They're very party strong. Yeah. Whereas younger voters tend to be in the middle. There's a lot of unenrolled voters who may be totally fine without that party affiliation. But I do think if you're trying to harness an older demographic, perhaps, then I think the party affiliation tends to be more important. But like for me, that's not something I would necessarily care about. I would look at the experience and what is she bringing to the table experience-wise. And unfortunately, I don't see a ton of experience there, but how do you get experience? By doing the work.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested to see where this goes for her and how her campaign goes. If she's able to, she mentioned in the article that she would be willing to go toe-to-toe with Neal. I'm not sure if he will.
Yeah.
But he has done debates in the past with Focus Springfield, so we'll see if that's something he'd be interested in doing again. But I'm curious to see how it goes for her.
Yeah, and I think the mention of term limits is something that always kind of catches my eye. Obviously, people are doing good work, but when you see somebody's been in the same position for 36 years, you're like, is it maybe time for a fresh set of eyes or a fresh voice in there? I don't know. Yeah,
I agree. I do like the idea of term limits. I'm not sure that 6 years, though, is enough. When I think of... I feel like that's not a lot of time because you get in, and especially this is 2-year terms.
Yeah.
So, you think of the president. You go in, your first year, it's all, getting on board, whatever. By the time you hit year 3, you're focusing on your reelection. So years 3 and 4 are kind of not a wash, of course. There's a lot of work to be done. But your focus is elsewhere. So when I think of 2-year terms, your second year is focused to reelection, basically, or the last 6 months of it. So I feel like your time is a little bit more limited than you necessarily think. 6 years seems a little short to me. Not that, it's a given regardless, but I would say 10, 15 years. If you're good at your job, you keep getting voted in, but after that, it's time to keep the seat moving along, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to look at it. But.
Yeah. So as always, Reminder Publishing will continue to cover this race and the upcoming election. For the full story, head to thereminder.com.
For our third topic this week, Dakin Humane Society is going to be reopening its Kitten ICU. Executive Director Meg Talbert made the announcement on July 10th, which is also National Kitten Day. The ICU was initially opened in 2014, but was ultimately closed when the coronavirus pandemic made it difficult to have a lot of volunteers at Dakin's facility. With the reopening, this is the only Kitten ICU in all of New England.
Prior to reopening, Dakin set a goal of $40,000 to prepare and operate the unit. Half of that goal was met when a single donor in the community offered $20,000 toward the unit. With the unit open again, Dakin staff and an army of 50 volunteers, the Kitten Care Crew, will be taking care of kittens between the ages of 5 and 12 weeks. The kittens are treated for a variety of health concerns in the ICU, but the most common ones are trouble eating, upper respiratory infections, and diarrhea, according to the veterinary nurse Meg Delaney.
Kittens are brought to the ICU in several ways, including the Kitten Street Team and a Moms Fix Free program. The Kitten Street Team will respond to feral cat colonies around the city, bringing the kittens of feral mother cats to be nursed to a healthy condition and put up for adoption. Unfortunately, the feral mother cats are often unable to be socialized for adoption. With the Moms Fix Free program, pet owners can bring the mother and their entire litter to Dakin, where they provide spay surgery and vaccines for rabies and distemper for the mother free of charge. The kittens are then put up for adoption once they are healthy.
The need for the Kitten ICU comes after a heightened population of kittens in 2023. During COVID-19, many veterinarian offices shut down or ended up with longer wait times for animals to be spayed or neutered, increasing the opportunity for accidental impregnation. The housing crisis in the state has led to people being less likely to find pet-friendly living arrangements, leading to more surrenders. In 2020, Dakin took in 422 kittens. That jumped to 881 in 2022 and 1,326 in 23.
And the Kitten ICU is going to operate seasonally from July to October, and Dakin expects to treat a minimum of 250 cats this season.
That is so crazy, those figures. I knew that there were heightened amounts of kittens, and I knew that cats are often easier to adopt than dogs. There's more of them. I had no idea that it, tripled. It tripled, basically, in 3 years. That's insane.
And, I mean, the factors that Sarah pointed out in the article obviously make sense that inflation...
Yeah.
Cost of living rising.
Yeah.
That's where that additional 500 cats in 2023 comes from.
Yeah.
It's really hard. If people are struggling, I can only imagine how much their pets are going to be struggling as well.
Right, absolutely. And if you can't financially, if you're struggling to make ends meet, you're not going to get a pet and take that in and have added expenses. I mean, cats are a little cheaper to maintain, but vet bills are expensive no matter what.
Yeah.
You've got to get shots. You've got to do all of that. So... yeah, that's really too bad. The Kitten ICU is such a special place, though. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's adorable. One of the first stories that I did working here in 2017 was at the Kitten ICU. And I went and I got to go in, and you can't touch anything or any cats or anything just because they're being treated. And it's a sterile environment. But oh my gosh, they're so precious. They're so tiny. Fit right in your hand. They're really cute.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get the opportunity to see it, but it sounds like it would be cool
Next
to
time
see.
there's a Kitten ICU story, we'll send you down there, Dennis. You get to go and see the cats. And Sarah showed me some gorgeous photos that she took of the kittens, too. They were just absolutely precious. I'm surprised she didn't wind up adopting an animal and bringing it home.
Yeah, honestly.
That was kind of silly in hindsight to send her to that, because she would be the most likely person to walk out with a pet. It just was so cute. It looked at me. I could see her be like, it's an office cat. And she turns up at the office and is like, will the reminder pay for the vet bill? I was like, okay. Oh, gosh.
Man.
Could you imagine an office cat? Could be fine. Except for the people who have allergies.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. Just unfortunate. I feel bad for anybody that has any kind of pet allergy.
I know. Imagine being allergic to dogs. Ugh, what a life for
My life would be over.
Seriously.
But, and I think... one thing I want to kind of circle back on with the numbers is I wonder how many of those were adopted of that 1,326 last year. Yeah. Because obviously if you see people are giving up more animals, then people are going to be adopting less animals. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I know that, every rescue shelter, they're all so inundated with pets all the time. I was talking earlier about the dog that we adopted. The shelter there was just absolutely inundated. with animals. And it was clean, it was beautiful, everything looked good, but there were so many pets of like every variety. I saw a rabbit, I saw dogs, I saw cats. When I adopted my dog Maverick 2 years ago, that shelter was in Connecticut, and that was a sad scene, to be honest with you. It was just, oh my God, it was a tiny building with like over 100 different pets in it. There were birds, there were tons of cats, there were rabbits. The birds and the rabbits were living in the same area. There were dogs, and there were some dogs that were sweet little dogs, and not to say these other dogs weren't sweet. I'm sure they were. They were cooped up in very tiny, terrible environment, but very aggressive, very scary for, I'm sure, the cute little dogs sitting next to them. And it was just so sad. And there was this one woman who was running it, and she said that she takes care of all of those pets every day, just her. And there was over 100 pets for sure in that space. Think of the level of care. I mean, of course, it's good that they're taken in and they're being supported and they're trying to get them adopted out. But the level of care, like they probably get 2-minute potty breaks a day, like quick. They're not getting individualized playtime. And thankfully, birds are a little easier to care for, and rabbits are easier to care for. They don't need to go on walks, etc. But like the level of support that the dogs need and the cats, it's just, oh gosh, it breaks my heart every time.
Yeah, I know. And you always got to like just think about like the people that are like supporting these animals too. Like the work they do, like I feel like they don't get shouted out enough for everything they do. Like whether it's being a volunteer at one of these shelters and just helping out, or being on the staff, like the work they do to keep these animals safe and healthy. Like
Dakin said, 50 volunteers, over 50 volunteers just for the kittens. Just for the kittens. That's insane. That's amazing that there's that many people are willing to go and volunteer and do that for the better of the pets. So gotta love that. Dakin definitely has a great operation.
Yeah, they for sure do. Definitely gives you a little bit more hope in the world in some darker times.
So sweet. Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll be back for our next topic after a couple of quick messages.
Since the founding of Reminder Publishing over 60 years ago, the Reminder has brought local businesses together with their customers, your neighbors and friends, through our advertising and coverage. Over the past 4 years, the Reminder has been adding to its reporting capabilities and expanding our readership, while other newspapers in the region, state, and country have scaled back or closed. We want local journalism to thrive and grow, and are asking readers and listeners to support and participate. The Reminder Press Club's mission is to ensure that local journalism is sustainable and leading healthy community discussions. The Reminder Press Club is a way for you to support the crucial work of professional reporters covering the vital stories in our community. Learn more about the Reminder Press Club or join at reminderpressclub.com. We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news.
And we're back for our next topic. It's the end of an era as Noreen Tassinari closes the books on an almost 50-year career with the Eastern States Exposition as their Director of Marketing. Billed as New England's Great State Fair, the largest agricultural event on the eastern seaboard and the fifth largest fair in the nation, the Big E has grown substantially over the last 40 years, now encompassing 17 days with major talent on 2 stages, significantly more agricultural competitions and activities, a Mardi Gras parade, and a myriad of food choices. The exposition's calendar of non-fair events has also flourished, with 120 shows and events taking place throughout the year.
Growing up in Springfield, Tassinari graduated from Cathedral High School, where an inspiring and encouraging creative writing teacher influenced her eventual career path. She majored in English and journalistic studies at UMass Amherst, which included a heavy concentration in writing. After one of her classmates secured a summer internship with the Eastern States Exposition, Tassinari reached out to Betsy Sheehan, then Director of Public Relations, and scored a spot on the exposition for herself. Tassinari learned from Betsy and said working with her was a masterclass in public relations and marketing. She returned to work at the Big E the following September and was hired as a public relations coordinator for the exposition that winter. A few years later, the position was changed to communications manager with the creation of the exposition's marketing department.
Not only did Tassinari keep quite busy working at the Eastern States, but Tassinari explained that the exposition encourages employees at all levels to volunteer. By the time she was 30, Tassinari was serving on 3 boards: the Advertising Club of Western Massachusetts, the YMCA, and the Valley Press Club, where she is currently a director and scholarship chair. Looking back at her career at the exposition, Tassinari said her favorite part of the job was the Big E itself. She said it was, quote, exciting and unpredictable and a little bit of showbiz here in Western Mass. She said it's a labor of love.
Eugene Cassidy, president and chief executive officer of the Eastern States Exposition, thanked Tassinari for her invaluable contributions. He said, quote, Noreen is a force at Eastern States Exposition. She has served 3 of the 7 presidents of this 108-year-old organization, and she has done so with aplomb, he said. Articulate, thoughtful, and capable of keeping her cool when the world around her is chaotic, Noreen has had her thumbprint on everything we have done for nearly 2 generations. To say I will miss her is a monumental understatement. To say I am grateful for her talent and ability is even more understated. I thank God she has been here to support us.
In addition to a slate of summer travel and spending family time with her granddaughter, Tassinari said she will continue to seek out community volunteer opportunities in retirement. She's also interested in becoming a weather spotter for the National Weather Service Skywarn, a group of trained individuals who provide reports of severe and hazardous weather to help meteorologists and emergency managers make life-saving decisions. So I love Noreen. I actually know her a little bit through her time on the Valley Press Club. I am also on the Valley Press Club, and I sit on the scholarship committee with her. She is such a gem. She's the most warm, welcoming person. She is very calm. She has such a calming energy, and she knows her stuff. She's been doing this a long time. She has that experience, and she's such a great resource to the community. And I'm so happy for her that she's getting to retire, but I'm sad for the Big E because that's a huge loss. Someone with that institutional knowledge who's been doing it for so long. I'm sure she imparted all that wisdom onto the people taking over for her, but it is sad to see her go, but she'll still be around.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely going to be a big hole to fill, especially 50 years with one place of employment. That's a lot.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, oh, that would be insane. Another...
Meanwhile,
43 years at the Reminder.
Peyton and I will be here at 68 and 70.
I just don't see that happening. I love the Reminder, but I just don't know if I'm going to make it another 43 years down the road. You never know. You never know. But gosh, yeah, it's incredible. That longevity is amazing. And like I said, that's such a resource. And it also speaks so highly to the Eastern States and the way they treat their employees. People don't stay around for that long if they don't feel appreciated and taken care of. So that's really wonderful that they were able to retain her and that she was able to stay there for her whole career and just loved it.
Yeah, so, and just to really kind of put it into context, she was there for half of the Big E's existence almost.
Yeah, truly.
50 out of 108 years. That's just insanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And she looks great. So I'm glad for her. And the weather service thing, I didn't really see that coming. I didn't know
I know.
that about her.
That's definitely an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like that. So next time I see her, I'm going to have to ask her about it because I don't know much about that. And I mean, I'm not a science person, so anything she could tell me would be interesting. But I think that's such a niche thing to want to get into in your retirement. So
could be fun though, just watching the weather and
always
reminds me of like my parents because like my mom is like the biggest weather nerd out there. Yeah.
What does being a weather nerd consist of?
Just
though?
like watching like national weather and just like keeping a track on like different
happening.
storms that are going on and stuff. And
interesting.
Then, like keeping up with like all the local organizations on Facebook when they have like when they're watching like big storms and stuff like that. But like just going back, like she always wanted to be like kind of like a storm chaser. Like there's obviously the new Twisters movie coming out this week, and when we were younger, my parents would always put that on like during like when we were on vacation and stuff, and it was like
I haven't seen the first one. Do I need to see it before seeing the second or no?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the first one since I was little.
Well,
But
I'll have to look into it. It looks good, I think.
yeah.
Glenn Powell, I feel like, he's been in everything lately. Is he taking a break? I don't know. He's in another
Him
movie.
and
It's
Austin
crazy.
Butler there.
Yeah, Austin Butler, too, working hard out here. Gonna just see them in every movie popping up. But yeah, that movie does look good. And I do think that's an interesting concept, but just couldn't be me.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me. Another thing that couldn't
Not
be me. Yeah. But
Payton not chasing tornadoes.
no, I don't think so. I think that 2011 really scarred me enough.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't get to be a part of the last conversation on tornadoes.
That's true.
Chris and Tyler got to talk about tornadoes, and I was like, what a bummer, because, we were there.
It
We lived
literally
through
went
it.
in between our houses, probably.
It did, yeah. Dennis lives in Hamden, and I live in Munson, and there's it's that right along the path, right in between. But really quickly, my tornado story. One of my best friends, I'll just give this little tidbit. One of my best friends, so I was a junior in high school at the time. She was doing her driver's ed classes. Or was it sophomore? It was junior year. She was doing her driver's ed classes, and she was about to drive into downtown Munson. She's heading that way when the tornado went through. She was in the driver's ed car. All of a sudden, she can't get to the other side of town. She was trying to get to her house. She pulls into my family's driveway. We have no idea because my mom, my brother, and I are hiding in the basement. And all of a sudden, we start to come out of the basement, and I hear a hello at the door. She opens up the door. She's like, guys, downtown is gone. And we were like, what? Because we stepped outside and there were shingles in our backyard. There were trees down in our backyard, the whole thing. But we didn't see any severe damage.
Yeah.
Until the next day when we all drove downtown. It was like all the people, it was like The Walking Dead, just people coming out of their homes and looking around and just absolute astonishment and silence. And it was so eerie and awful. So good for Noreen that she wants to be a part of this storm chasing to a degree. It's just, I don't know. It's too close to home.
No, I know. But going back to the tornado stuff, for us, this is going to sound horrible. But so I remember that day because there was 2 different rounds of the weather or whatever. And after the first round, we all got in the car and went to go survey the damage. And then we got to Main Street in Wilbraham. And,
I'm surprised you got that far.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how we did, but we got there, and then you could see trees were down everywhere, and then my dad's calling, hey, get home, there's another wave coming, and then so we got back, and then we were sitting on our front porch, and you could just it was you could see a wall of clouds, and you could just hear it, and it was insanity.
Yeah, it was terrifying. That was a really crazy time. I remember baking cookies because the church was putting together potluck for everyone, all the volunteers. Everyone was volunteering. I made 100 snickerdoodles and dropped them off at the church. It was a whole really nice community coming together atmosphere. That was really wonderful, but oh my gosh, it was just, the devastation was just so terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that we've talked about the tornado experience that we've clearly been dying to get out, congrats to Noreen. Very thrilled for her and excited to see where she goes on from here. I'm sure she's going to continue volunteering and hopefully spending the time with her family.
Yeah, definitely wishing her the best in all of her future endeavors.
For the full story, head to thereminder.com.
For this week's final topic, we're going to be looking at a one-man play coming to the area. Springfield resident actor and playwright Ken Harris will be portraying 10 characters in his comedic and dramatic production of Foes of a Minimum Wage Guard. The 90-minute play stars Steve, a 68-year-old retail security officer who walks around helping customers at the fictitious Fashion Spear department store. Initially, his job is to discourage shoplifting and call loss prevention officers when it happens. But when the head officer is fired for stealing, Steve is forced to replace him.
In his new role, Steve's greatest challenge comes when he catches his colleague, Gus, stealing merchandise. Gus and Steve were both hired at the same time and have grown to become close friends after working together for 20 years. Gus is also the godfather to Steve's son and daughter, so Steve catching and reporting Gus's stealing leads to a fracture in their relationship. After reporting Gus to the authorities, Steve turns in his badge and says he's quitting before his boss offers him his old job.
In preparing for the play, Harris had to memorize the entire 51-page script and said he did so by memorizing a page or two a day. He said his process took him a week to write the first draft of the script, 2 months of editing, and then another 2 months for memorizing. In his time as a retail officer, Harris said looking out for shoplifters became a part of the playwriting process as well.
Through the play, Harris is able to show his experience watching the decline of retail stores and one of their biggest problems, shoplifting. Using Fashion Spear as an example, Harris shows what happens to an old-style department store that failed to meet the needs of modern society with lagging technology that would improve customer service. It also highlights the effects of shoplifting, which totaled $100 billion in damages in 2021.
Harris began acting in 1995 when he was a member of the drama club at the High School of Commerce in Springfield. Since then, he's performed in local community theater and produced independent films.
Harris is also a freelance journalist. For one of his articles, he interviewed Chaz Palminteri, who appeared with Robert De Niro in A Bronx Tale, a hit movie based on the one-man play Palminteri wrote and starred in about his life around the mafia. When Harris interviewed Palminteri, he offered to mentor him and watch him perform Foes of a Minimum Wage Guard. In that session, Palminteri said that if Harris could cut the play down to 90 minutes, he would have something special.
Yes, this is a cool story. I mean, this is obviously another one of those things that Peyton and I could never do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if you know this about me. I used to do like one-act plays in high school.
Really?
Yes, I was part of we had a little. It wasn't even a club. There was no like drama club or anything like that. But we did one-act plays, and I did do that. And I did freshman year, as I dust off my shoulders. I did freshman year get a Best Freshman Actress award. So
Oh wow!
maybe I would be him. You never know. I don't think so though, because I'll tell you what, I had to memorize a speech recently that was like 1 page long. It was a 2-minute speech. No big deal. That was stressful. So I don't know how this man is memorizing 50 pages. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I believe that it took 2 months. I think that's really short. That's amazing.
I was going to say that's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for him. That part couldn't be me.
No.
That's for sure.
But like speaking of the play experience, I tried out for 2 plays when I was a kid.
Really?
At the Theater Guild at Hamden. Both times I ended up crying and left. So.
Oh, that's so sad. Did you want to try out for them?
Yeah, and then I got stage fright. I was like,
Oh.
I'll go watch all my friends when
Yeah.
it comes out.
Yeah.
But
We, in elementary school, whatever classes I was in, I don't remember other classes having plays, but we did have, I was in the classes that did do plays. And so it just kind of happened. You had to be in them in the classrooms, and there was just people who didn't want to do speaking roles, could just do whatever. We had Sleeping Beauty, I think, was one of them. And so we did whatever, what's the one, is Sleeping Beauty the one that has the elves?
you mean Snow White and the Seven
Snow
Dwarfs?
White and the Seven Dwarfs. They're dwarves, they're not elves. Wow, where's Chris Mazza? He'd be so disappointed in me right now. I'm like, who are those little elves? Oh, the dwarves. Yeah, so there was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I was one of the dwarfs. Elves. But they had we did a bunch of different plays. There was one that had a blue fairy. I remember wearing the costume like I was the blue fairy. That was fun. So I don't know. I kind of liked it in elementary school, and then we didn't do anything in middle school. And then high school, we had the one-act plays for 2 years. So I did it freshman and sophomore year. And it was a good time. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I don't necessarily... You would think that I relish being on stage and in front of people, but that's definitely shifted. Maybe then I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Now I'd be like, yeah, no, pass on that. No thanks. But this play, that I don't know, as I was reading this and we were talking about it, it just reminded me of Paul Blart Mall Cop.
That was the exact
You
same
thought of
thing,
it too?
yeah.
I love that movie. I love Kevin James, but this was giving Paul Blart Mall
That's
Cop
exactly
for me.
what it is,
And
yeah.
it totally different premise to a degree, but same, follows the guy along his job, catching shoplifters.
I wonder if he uses a
The
segue.
I almost made that joke too. Does he have a segue on stage? What are we doing? This can't be a good movie or a good play without a segue. Yeah, no. Great movie. Great movie.
So
Love
funny.
Kevin James. That's hilarious. Yeah, well, congrats to this man.
Yeah.
I am interested to see how this goes.
Yeah, definitely another play to check out in the
That's a
area
lot
as
of
we've been
pressure.
talking about.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot of pressure. One-man play? That's a lot.
yeah, everything coming down to you. That's
That's stressful.
scary
But
sometimes.
he's obviously well prepared, so excited
Oh
for him.
yeah, especially getting professional mentoring
Yeah,
from an
yeah.
actual
You can't beat that.
Hollywood actor. So
Mm-hmm.
Harris is scheduled to perform Foes of a Minimum Wage Guard July 21st at 1 p.m. at the Castle of Knights, 1597 Memorial Drive in Chicopee. August 3rd at 6 p.m. at Gasoline Alley, 250 Albany Street, Springfield. August 24th at 6 p.m. at Holyoke Media, One Court Plaza in Holyoke. And tickets can be purchased at the door, online, or by contacting Cellar Door Productions at 413-285-2024 or at cellardoorproductions.dev@gmail.com. And that wraps up this edition of So That Reminds Me.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks to bring you another episode.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.